Welcome, 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 everybody. It is Friday training time. And just want to remind you that we have our show starting tonight, episode number 2 minute drill. Check it out on Bloomberg TV. Uh, Next week's training is going to be bring your own questions. That's the Q&A full session. We will be having Q&A today, so make sure you fill up the Q&A box. We are also simulcasting to Clubhouse. If you haven't checked out Clubhouse, you should check it out. It's all audio. So we'll be taking questions from Clubhouse, Instagram Live, and put your questions in here, the Q&A session. This training today is about abundant negotiation, understanding how do we negotiate from a position of abundance so that everybody wins in everything that we do in an abundant way. Remember, you can join the text community 949-298-2905. All right, let's get started. So the idea of a negotiation is, from your perspective, to articulate value that exceeds the value you're asking for. Now, it has nothing to do with quantitative value other than the perceived value in which you're able to articulate. This is a really important concept to give you the confidence to create an abundant opportunity between more than one party. Articulating the value to exceed what you're asking for. Keep that in the back of your head when you're talking, when you're asking questions, when you're articulating those values. Make sure that your goal is to give more than you receive. It's that simple. So, how do we do that? The number one way that we do that is to prepare. Prepare, prepare, prepare. Like anything else, the consistent, persistent pursuit of your perfection, of your potential, will come from the practice of that pursuit. And so many people think that because they know their business so well, their product, service, or solution so well, that they automatically can articulate the value accordingly. You can't. It takes practice. It takes preparation to make sure your background, your props, your stories, your lessons are aligned and timed in order to what? Articulate the value to exceed what you're asking for. In other words, another definition for giving, another definition for providing service, solution, and value to others. Enter a negotiation without proper preparation, and you've already lost the game. It is merely impossible to articulate value to exceed what you're asking for if you're not prepared, if you haven't listed out and paid attention to the timing of the negotiation. One of the things you have to practice is ending fear, because you need to leave your ego behind in a negotiation. This has to be a quantitative discussion. And your only objective is to articulate the quantitative value to exceed what you're asking for at all times. So if you can't get there, you have to ask more questions and look at your capabilities, skills, knowledge, desire in order to effectuate articulation of that value. And the ego is only going to diminish your capacity to do that. Preparation will allow your ego to move to the side. We won't have, for example, I've seen more negotiations end because of what? A need to be right, a need to be offended, a need to feel guilty, a need to feel separate, a need to feel inferior, superior. There's so many needs of the ego that literally destroys, dissipates, dissolves your value in the negotiation, which is really what? A negotiation, in an abundant definition, is a collaboration. We have a collaboration. A negotiation means, in a scarce environment, that one person wins and one person loses. We don't do that. In fact, in my first book, Connected to Goodness, which, by the way, I will sign and send and pay for shipping out to anyone, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. I'll send you the exercises, guides on negotiation, pitching, selling. So just go ahead. But in that book, I talk about the 3 rules that Leigh Steinberg, one of the best negotiators, abundant negotiators that I know, abundant collaborator, I should call him. But he always said it was really simple. Number 1, always be fair. Always be fair. So if you have to resort to something during your collaboration or abundant negotiation, resort to fairness. Second, never negotiate to the last penny. Don't squeeze the last ounce of juice out of that lemon. No, find more to give. There's no reason to squeeze someone and take their juice, but provide them more juice so that there's more to go around, and fight the fact of scarcity. And then finally, it takes more energy to negotiate or to speak with or to do business with somebody with a closed mind than 1,000 people with an open mind. Or as my great mentor, Leigh Steinberg, always said, don't do business with dicks. That simple. So surround yourself and negotiate with people that have open minds so that you can articulate value to exceed what you're asking for. And hopefully they have the same intent in this abundant negotiation or collaboration. In order to do so, you need to ramp up two skills. One, your listening skills. God gave you two of these and only one of these. That's for the collaboratory, collaboration, abundant negotiation. Two of these, one of these. If you forget this rule, look in the mirror and ask yourself, which is the second skill set you need, is to ask. Ask the right questions, ask for what you want. Know that one of my favorite players ever to play in the NFL and friends of mine, Vincey Glenn, used to say, you don't ask unless you don't get. You don't ask, you don't get. So make sure that you have those two skill sets. Remind yourself you have two ears and one mouth, and ask. And you got to ask all those questions to learn of how you can articulate value to exceed what you're asking for. Now, another anticipation in the preparation that you need is to anticipate compromise. So many people go into negotiations with a closed mind. Go into the negotiation with an open mind, and you've increased your statistical success by 1,000 times beyond finding people or helping them find their open mind and collaborative spirit within an abundant negotiation. So anticipate the compromise. And in order to do that, you need to prioritize what has the most value for you and explore what has the most value for the collaborative partner that you have or the person you're abundantly negotiating with. You need to understand and expect and anticipate the compromise. And if you haven't prioritized or learned enough by listening and asking questions of what's valuable to each party, you are not going to be able as easily to articulate the value, quantitative value, to exceed what you're asking for. Make sure that you're looking for and expect a commitment when you're in this collaborative negotiation, when you're in this abundant negotiation. Make sure when you offer that you offer in the context of accepting and expecting a commitment. Now, one of the dangers of collaboration and one of the dangers of the ego and one of the dangers, even if you are prepared, is that we absorb the problems emotionally of our collaborative partners, of our negotiation partners, of the other parties that are involved. We absorb the problems. Now, you cannot attach your emotions to the quantitative value in which you're giving in order to exceed that value. And people will, it's buyer beware, not seller beware. But so many people fall into the trap of absorbing the problems or the emotions of the people that they're abundantly collaborating and negotiating with. So make sure that you are empathetic and maybe even sympathetic, but don't absorb the problems. You will be at a loss and you will not be able to articulate the quantitative value to exceed the value you're asking for if you absorb the problems and the emotional aspects of those problems of the counterparts in the abundant negotiation or collaboration. Another rule in abundant negotiation or collaboration is that everything is negotiable. Now, negotiation is not trading. It's not quid pro quo. It doesn't exist in a vacuum of a man-made construct of limitedness. It's an infinity. You sit between unlimited lists, unlimited and infinity. And in order to sit between unlimited and infinity in the negotiation, you have to realize then that abundantly everything can be negotiated. And the reason I say that is that will help to inspire you to ask more questions and to ask for what you want and to be able to give up and allow everything to come through you and give away without the emotional attachment of a competition, a separation of inferiority or superiority in the negotiation of some sort of trade that there's a winner or a loser. But within the context of what we're doing, Everything is negotiable. But in order to know that, you have to know what you want before the collaboration or abundant negotiation. We need to understand what is it exactly that we want. In order to do that, you literally have to work through the 5 daily practices of making sure you've taken inventory of your values, personal of what you want, experientially what you want, giving wise what you want, receiving wise what you want. And then you have to know what to ask for, and you have to know who to ask. And then you want to make sure that you're utilizing your attention and intention during the conversation and collaboration in order to effectuate the coincidences that you want. Attention plus intention, mathematical equation equals luck. It equals the coincidence. You'll be more than happy to know that it won't be a surprise when people are just offering without you asking what exactly you want if you know what you want beforehand. Stay present in the negotiation and practice ending fear. Leave your ego behind, but know and prioritize by your values what you are negotiating with from an abundant perspective or collaborating for. Now, never believe anyone else in a collaboration is entirely abundant or on your side. There are no sides. Everyone is not abundant. Everyone has ego. You and I will do our best in a collaborative negotiation and abundant negotiation to leave that behind, but it still exists. And in the end, what I have found is abundant as I am looking out and prioritizing what I want. I'm trying to exceed the expectations of what I'm giving compared to what I'm asking for so that it ends up being abundant. But in the end, you cannot believe that you or the other parties are putting the other parties first or believe entirely in abundance and unconditional negotiation. It's abundant negotiation, not unconditional negotiation, but we aim for a win win within the context of this reality. I am a realist. We live in this pragmatic world. This is a negotiation, but in order to make it a win win, we have to understand quantifiable value. We need to articulate that value and ask the right questions and provide the right value so that it is giving and it's not squeezing. Strive, right? We're enjoying the consistent, persistent pursuit of our potential. What we want to do is strive to be innocent and unconditional, non judgmental and attacking. We want to strive to be abundant and collaborative. And in order to pursue that potential, that integrity, we want to work within the context like a pitch that credibility is the number one aspect. We want to be as honest as we can and stick to the math, right? Math has a true frequency to it that cannot be oversold, back end sold, manipulated, or cheated or lied to. So we want to strive for those three: innocence, abundance, and the truth or honesty. And if we do that, we would come up and be able to and have capability of articulating value to exceed what we're asking for. Now, going into a negotiation, one thing that I found in training people, and like I said, I'm more than happy to send everybody the exercises, guides on pitching, selling, negotiating, ego, all the things that are in the context of this training for free, including my book, which deals with this as well, for free. Just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. But going into a collaborative discussion or an abundant negotiation, anxiety is a key component. How many of us have felt anxious before we bought a car? One of the times, or buying a house, or some significant purchase where we know there will be some sort of collaborative negotiation. And many companies have tried to resolve that anxiety by having, negotiation free, but yet you and I still know haggle free just dissipates and dissolves some of the anxiety, but we're always wondering where the catch is, what's there. If they're not capable of exceeding the value that they offer with the value that I'm giving, then we're going to have that anxiety. And so what we want to do is work on replacing that anxiety in those exciting times with what? That emotion of excitement, of positivity. We want to work within a space of excitement, not anxiety, so that that energy is not misread by the collaborative partners in the abundant negotiation or this collaboration or communication. Anchor the discussion uh, is another way to work within the context of excitement and not anxiety. What do I mean? One other thing I can send you is a go no go plan. One of the greatest ways in a collaborative discussion of abundant negotiation, a go no go plan is allows you to anchor the discussion to prioritize and maintain the asks and attracts and all of the focus, clarity, and balance of the quantitative value to exceed what you're asking for in writing, but also gives you a roadmap in order to anchor that discussion to make it easier and dissipate the anxiety and increase the excitement. So have a draft agreement, a go no go plan, some sort of outline, action items in which you can anchor a discussion that's collaborative, abundant in nature. Another tool to use to exceed the value that you're asking for and quantitatively be able to articulate it is draw on a superpower. And it's a superpower which I've had to develop over the last 17 years because it wasn't part of my repertoire before when I was an overseller, back end seller, liar, manipulator, and cheater. Uh, but it's a superpower, and that's draw on the power of silence for two reasons. One, it allows you to listen, and two, it allows you to think. It allows you to connect to the greatest source of power, light, and lessons. It allows you to find your highest frequency of neutrality, of center, to get that clear balance and focus, to articulate and quantify the value that you're providing to exceed the value that you're asking for. Remember, our ultimate goal. Draw on the power of silence. If you don't know where to go in a collaborative discussion, if you're feeling ego based consciousness, a need to be offended or resentful or guilty or inferior or superior or anxious or frustrated or angry, all of these things have been key components in discussions that were supposed to be collaborative and abundant, but end up being scarce and argumentative and also not in a situation of a win win. But we need to draw on those times the superpower of silence. The superpower of silence will allow you to connect to what is always with you and allow you to think, to come up with a better way to articulate what you truly mean, to roll in the right direction. Remember, when you are in that ego based consciousness, your mind, body, soul are on fire. You got to stop, be silent with the superpower, and then you'll be able to roll in the right direction towards the ability to articulate the value to exceed that which you're asking for. Another key component of abundant negotiation, of collaborative discussions, is to ask for help, ask for advice. Key component, you got to ask for advice. Find someone that's sitting in a situation that you want to be in. Remember that the best way to get somewhere, especially within the context of articulating value to exceed what you're asking for, is find someone that sits there already and ask them for directions how to get there. And so dwell on the dummy tax of others. See who sat in the situation of negotiating for the same car from the same dealer, or a house, same house in the same neighborhood, or the same price range, or the same bank, or whatever it may be. It's so easy to find someone who sits in the situation that you want to be in and ask for advice. A lot of people don't know what to offer. That's another issue. They don't know what to offer and where their final stops are. My personal belief is that if your vision, like mine, is to articulate quantitative value, convincing with credibility, emotional attachment, with all the reasons, impacts, and capabilities, which I also can send to you a reasons, impacts, and capability document, David at dmeltzer.com for free. But looking at that, there's two things that you really need to know going into an abundant negotiation or a collaborative discussion. One, where are you going to start? Where are you going to start? And where's your bottom line? You need to go into that discussion knowing those two things and working within the context that somewhere between what you're asking and your bottom line, your ability to articulate and quantify the value of what you're asking for or your bottom line is greater than what you're asking for. That's the key. So many people go into these discussions, these abundant discussions, and they lose their focus, their clarity, and their balance because they have no idea what they're asking for. They haven't taken inventory of their values, but they haven't have a starting point and a bottom line. Those will help you. Those will help you utilize the 3 no rule, which I also can send you a document on, david@dmeltzer.com. It'll help you understand that you're not ready to have an abundant conversation until you're ready to walk. You have to extract an emotion of need out of it. You cannot exceed value if you need something. And I promise you, you don't need in an abundant philosophy anything if you're here. If you weren't here, you might need something, but you're here. And so just know your starting point and your bottom line and go ahead and walk away if they haven't hit your bottom line. Walk away if they haven't hit your bottom line. You don't have to ring people. Now, the ringing towel theory was an old school scarce negotiation tool, which said if you get somebody to agree with you, keep squeezing them, squeezing them, squeezing them. And then finally, like a wet rag when you clean your car, what do? You squeeze it. When no water comes out, what do? You squeeze it 2 more times. You don't have to use the ringing towel theory. But what you can use is the effectuated utilization of value in order to keep on asking for things until they can't do it. Right? Remember, you're doing someone a favor by allowing them to provide value to you as well. And it's okay to receive, especially when you have the intention to allow everything to come through you for others. You're just a tool of transference. You're not a repository of permanent behavior. You're a tool of transference. That your idea is to keep everything into the flow. And the more that can flow through you, the more you'll expand. It's the pipes that don't allow things to flow through them that either get clogged up, backed up, or they shrink in size or break. You are an expanding vessel that allows things to come through you. And then an expansive, abundant nature allows you to receive more, which allows you to give more. So always make sure that you know your starting point and your bottom line. Fear, like we stated, of loss is the single biggest driving force in human decision making. Now, that's has to be reconciled. Fear, if it's the single biggest driving force in human decision making, it has to be reconciled somehow in an abundant negotiation or collaboration. Because we don't want to manipulate fear. We don't want to oversell, back end sell, lie, or manipulate or cheat someone utilizing fear, knowing that it's the biggest human motivator in negotiation or decision making. But we want to understand our own fear and resolve other people's fears so that they make a emotional and logical decision based on the quantitative value that you articulated so that they have an exceeded expectation of what they receive compared to what you're giving. And to you, because your values are not the same as the other person's value, it is possible. It is possible to have a win-win situation. So if I put more value on the color blue and you put more value on the color yellow, and I have something that's blue and you have something that's yellow, determinative upon how much quantitative value I put on the color, we both could win. So if we have the same tennis shoe and I love blue tennis shoes and I'm willing to pay more for a blue one than a yellow one, and you're willing to pay more for the yellow one than the blue one, and we go ahead and trade, or maybe there's a trade plus something because you really, really value that yellow one finishes a complete set of something, which gives you an extended value. I can actually exceed value and receive more value when I receive it. What does that mean? That there is a perceived value that ties along with the quantitative articulation of value. And in order to find that perceived value, not only do we have to take inventory of our own values, have a starting point and a bottom line, but we have to explore the same for someone else if they haven't gone through the process and participate in that without manipulating the greatest fear in decision making, which is the fear of loss. It's okay to walk away if it's below your bottom line, but don't walk away just because you want to create a fear of loss. That's a scarce, limited belief. It's a scarce, limited collaboration, and it's not going to wear well, and it's not going to end well. It's not going to create the abundance, the flow that you want to allow you to come through you for others. As you know, the emotions are intertwined into every decision that people make. People buy on emotion for logical reasons, and we want to explore that emotional value along with the quantitative value to exceed the value that we're asking for. This is how collaborative spirit works. This is how abundant negotiation works. This is how we end up in win-win situation where everyone's bragging how well they did in the corresponding collaboration between two people, three people, four people. Obviously, the more people there is, the more values that have to be explored, the more difficult it is in order to effectuate a win-win-win-win situation compared to a win-win situation. But remember, negotiation does not equal bargaining. If you negotiate well, you will not have to bargain. Bargaining creates a limited source, it creates a limited, scarce environment. Negotiation is negotiating value so that you are articulating a quantitative value that exceeds what you're asking for, and the other person feels as if they have received more than they are asking for. And then you have a win win. And we can do this. We just have to follow these principles and understand the inventory of our values, asking and attracting, being a student and paying attention and intention to the ability to articulate the quantitative value to exceed that. And we have to stay present. But most important, we have to manage fear, not in a manipulative way, but manage it so it is in a dissolving, dissipating participant in what we're doing. We want to not heighten the fear, which is always the biggest motivator in human decision making, but we want to resolve the fear and replace it with quantitative value. You will succeed again and again and again in negotiation if you take an abundant perspective, if you take and do the extra work in order not to oversell. That's the cheating way, not to back end sell, lie, manipulate. You don't have to short sell. You don't have to go over under. There are no gatekeepers. There's simply just value. And you need to practice, practice, practice articulating that value and utilizing the tools of abundance in order to create value for everyone and to exceed not only the expectations, but exceed the value that you're asking for, and then be able to articulate that. If I can articulate, hey, I'm going to give you $100 and you're going to give me 20 back, can you see any reason you won't want to move forward? That's the type of emotional, psychological, and quantifiable value that we want to portray. That's what I call the 120 rule. And if you want to document on the 120 rule, you got it. David at dmeltzer.com, books, guides, exercises. If anybody misses this training, you can go ahead and catch all the trainings that we've done featured on the playbook with millionaires, billionaires, entrepreneurs, celebrities, athletes, and entertainers on the playbook. Just search the playbook featured on Spotify, Entrepreneur, Apple, iTunes, as well as Google Play and every platform. Just check it out. Next week's training, as we get to the Q&A session, is going to be all Q&A. I call it BYOQ. You bring the questions, I'll bring the answers. Everything's fair game. We'll just rattle them off. I want to thank everyone that joined me on Instagram Live on our webinar here, over 20,000 registrants here on Zoom alone. And of course, now on Clubhouse, we're going to take questions as well. I can see all the questions coming in. Uh, let's make sure that we don't take anybody hostage when we're in negotiation. Let's make sure we work from an abundant place. Make sure you check out 2 Minute Drill tonight, BYOQ next week, the Clubhouse if you haven't checked it out, Spotify, David at dmeltzer.com. If you want books, guides, exercises, they're all for free. Just reach out to me. All right, let's take some questions. Jen Welter is in the house. She's the first professional NFL woman coach, and more importantly, she's my friend. And I'm so honored that you're here. Hey, Jen, what question do you have for me?
First of all, and tell y'all, I've known Dave for years, and he is top of top of class and one of my very best friends. So, thank you for giving all these gems to so many people who can use them, David. It really speaks to your character. Um, One of the things I think would be a really good thing to emphasize is, how do you feel about the relationship and business, right? Some people are very much transactional. You know how I feel about it on developing partners and partnerships. But I think I think it's really important to emphasize. So I would love for you to kind of drop those gems for some of the people listening.
I love it because I can bring up one of my favorite mentors, Einstein, who talks about the theory of relativity. And that theory of relativity deals with relationships. And in some aspect, number one, we have to understand our relationship to the greatest source of power, light, and love first. In other words, we have to understand our relationship to self. I think so many times, even in negotiation and collaboration, that people that don't love themselves have a difficult time connecting and loving other people and being loved. And so for me, I spend a lot of time because relationships are the most important thing to me because I believe in oneness. I don't believe in separation. I believe in everyone can win, that there's more than enough of everything for everyone. But in order to do so, I can't find outside of me what I can't find inside of me. And I know, Jen, you've achieved so much in your career because you found who you were without trying to please other people and look for what you don't want or what other people want for you or what's missing in your life. You've continued to pursue your own potential, but those relationships are critical. But I want to stress to everyone, even in a negotiation, notice we start by taking inventory of our own values. We need to know who we are. And so the first relationship that I want people to work on and with is themselves. And as you know, Jen, you and I have done work together on self confidence and on self awareness, that when you're capable and expand and grow and accelerate that understanding of self, it becomes really easy to not only uh, flourish in these relationships with people that feed us, but allow people that bleed us to fall away and to fire from our lives, not surround ourselves with the wrong people and the wrong ideas, but instead to aggregate the consciousness so that we can achieve more in an inspired sense. Think about how important relationships are to inspiration. Just the word inspiration, what does it mean? In spirit. And if we're all in spirit together, collaborating together for a greater good, pursuing all of our potentials as individuals, appreciating how we are all similar, and even today, appreciating how we are all different and understanding those differences and growing and learning. I believe that relationships are the key to life and relativity is the key to life, but it needs to start with our relationship of self and then extend it out to those most relative to us and be well aware of the great chain of feeding, meaning I believe that I have to make sure that I am feeding those people like you in my life that feed me and making sure that I fall away or fire those people that bleed me. You're an incredible woman, incredible football scholar and coach, but most importantly to me, Jen, you are an amazing friend, and I am blessed to have you on. Thank you so, so much.
I love it. Dave, one thing I would add with you is I love how you focus on the self, right? Because authenticity is really important. And if you don't know yourself, you're going to change with the situations, right? Challenge yourself to pull into that core. And so the scouting report speaks for you before you go into situations. And that manifests good relationships because they'll already know when you walk in, how you walk in and how you move business.
You're absolutely right. Amazing. All right, the next guest up. Thank you, Jen, so much. I love you and adore you. If you haven't checked out Jen Welter, make sure you check her out as well. She is the first woman NFL coach and mentor to many. She has empowerment camps for men and women, but she's an amazing person and a dear friend. So, what a great way to start my first clubhouse question. I'm gonna take a quick question from Zoom, and then Ivan, you're gonna come up. Jake, why don't you bring Ivan up real quick? What's the biggest negotiation you've ever been a part of? The greatest negotiation I've been a part of is stadiums. So I've been blessed to negotiate for the Carson project. We didn't win that one. I negotiated to buy the Rams for Franklin Financial years ago. That's when Leigh Steinberg told me, I was completely over my skis. He's like, David, just be fair. Don't negotiate to the last penny and don't do business with dicks. Uh, those are two multi-billion dollar negotiations that I've been a part of. But I will tell you this, that I believe negotiation has no size. All it has is a parameter, and the parameter is to exceed and articulate the value that exceeds that which I'm asking for, whether it's 2 billion, 900 million. or eating broccoli for my 10-year-old. I need to exceed the value and articulate that in order to get what I want and make it a win-win. All right, our next guest is Ivan Temelkov. Hey, Ivan, how are you?
I'm good, David. You nailed it on my last name, so thank you so much for putting that effort.
Nice. I'm a name butcher, so you just made my day. Thank you.
Absolutely, absolutely. Thank you so much for allowing me to come on stage. I heard, I think it was Jen that was part. Yeah, I think it was
Yeah,
Jen.
Jen Welter.
Yeah, she talked about this. But my question for you is that, just to kind of preface this real quick, is in 2020, I really just figured out, or I doubled down, I should say, on myself, figuring out who I am and use that as a tactic to negotiate and lead with education and experience in being able to build out my audience, and as a result was able to forge new relationships. What are your thoughts on, this may have been answered, is on just truly being authentic and meaning just being yourself when you negotiate?
Yeah. So in that negotiation, in fact, some of these other people have questions is what if the other party isn't willing to compromise? Being blunt, important in negotiation. Look, negotiation is about articulating value and being honest, innocent, and abundant. And so I think, for your authenticity, if you extract your emotional aspect of who you are and put it into the context of your personal values, your experiential values, your giving values, and receiving values, and you work from a place of abundance and value while being honest. Somebody there says, is being blunt important in negotiations? I don't think blunt's the right word. I think honest is the right word and quantitative is a better word. I think that if you can extract the emotion and extract fear from what we're doing in some scarce philosophy of perceived value, that if we can actually stick to the math, in the math according to the different parties' values, like I utilize the example of blue and yellow, then you're going to find a win-win situation in the context of every collaborative discussion, which I define as an abundant negotiation. So knowing self is knowing values, taking inventory of those values and aligning those, but more importantly, understand the process of exploring other people's values so that you can articulate a value that exceeds more than you're asking for, even if you feel, according to your values, that you're receiving more than you're asking for. Both parties, because of perception and relativity, both parties can walk away from a collaborative negotiation, an abundant negotiation, feeling if they received more value than they gave. And that's the key. And we can only get there by pursuing our honesty, our integrity, and our potential or our own truth. And I don't necessarily think it's about being blunt, it's about diplomatically and influentially articulating and quantifying that value. Does that sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely. I think you 100% affirmed the approach that I had taken last year and looked at it double and triple back into 2021. The only other thing that I had a question about, and kind of segue to that, is would you say also confidence is a big part of that as well?
Yeah. So, and let me define confidence for everyone because I think we throw that term around way too much. What creates confidence is clarity, balance, weighted balance, not exact balance, and focus. If you are clear, balanced, and focused on what you want to offer and where your bottom line at, and you're completely clear, balanced, and focused on articulating the quantitative value for the other parties involved, you're going to be extremely confident. Confidence comes from that clarity, balance, and focus. And believe it or not, preparation is the key component or ingredient in order to get clarity, balance, and focus to create that confidence. But you're absolutely right. Have that clarity, balance, and focus. Utilize confidence so you can clearly define and articulate the quantitative value to exceed more than you're asking for. Thank you. That's awesome. Let me take a couple questions here as well while I bring Kevin Carter up, who's one of my coaching clients and have been for years. One is, how do you create a new meaning to your perspective? And that's once again, your perspective is yours. You're a projector. And in order to effectuate the meaning, you give meaning by your thoughts to everything that you see. And so, what you want to do is just raise your awareness of what you're giving meaning to. In other words, when you see something that doesn't make you feel good or something that doesn't seem right, then go ahead and use that pain, that discretion, in order to utilize it as a indicator that you have a lesson to learn. And if you learn that lesson, you can find the superpowers, the light, the love, and the lessons and everything, and give new meaning and new perspective to things that may have aggravated you or created anxiety or worry or fear within you, can now actually help propel you in the right direction. All right, my friend Kevin Carter in the house. What do you got for me, KC?
Hi, Dave. Thank you so much for bringing me up. I want to ask if you could speak on the importance of the alignment of energies of all people on the table that really necessary for breakthrough when the negotiation might get stuck.
Yeah. So when you're in a negotiation and stuck, what we have to do is ask questions. And here, let me give you the context and the template. Everybody, you could email me for this template. It's called the RIC template, David at dmeltzer.com. Go ahead, email me. I'll send it out to you for free. But when you're stuck, what we want to know is number one, what are you doing today about it? Right. So if you feel stuck, if we're at a hold in a standstill in negotiation, tell me what you're thinking today. Get the present out. How are you feeling? What do you like about what we're talking about? What don't you like what we're talking about? And if you can get to the like and dislike of being stuck, of understanding what the situation is that puts us in a position of non-agreement or closed-mindedness, and if we can get back to understanding what we like about it and what we don't like about it, what the concerns are, where we're at, the more that we can have this collaborative discussion of value, the easier it will be to align the capabilities, the skills, the knowledge, and desire that we have with that alignment of the other parties. And what happens is when we can't get something done, when we feel stuck, when we're at a hold, what happens is ego starts coming in, right? Because fear is the number one ingredient to all human decisions, right? It's the driving force. And what happens is we escalate and elevate fear with attacks, judgments, and conditions, with more ego of separateness. And then what we're doing is creating more interference, more voids, more shortages. We're feeling even more stuck. We're actually creating and getting farther apart than coming together in that align, coincide value. And so, in order to get back on track, questions are necessary, and we have to be able to ask questions about what are the reasons you feel this way, what impact is it having, what do you like about it, what don't you like about it, and what capabilities are you looking for. If we haven't been able to articulate the value yet, what can we do in order to do so, to effectuate this opportunity so that we can exceed the value than what we're asking for. Does that sound fair? You got that, my friend?
Thank you very much.
You got it. And let me take one more question as I bring Thomas Ma, who's one of my former podcast guests and an incredible guest at that, one of my faves. Um, the Someone's asking what's the 3 no rule. Well, I have a universal 3 no rule that says if in a situation of negotiation or sales, uh, for any reason I get a no, including I'm on my way to a meeting, I get a flat tire, somebody doesn't answer and get back to me because they have their own emergency, or simply someone says I'm not ready yet, call me back, that's 1 no. And when I get to the 3rd no, I simply tell them that I need to pay attention and give intention to those people that have open minds and are ready to go. And if you would like to work with me, go ahead and reach out, but I'm not going to reach out anymore. I want to give you your space and utilize my time in a more productive manner. 50% of the people will come back and do business with me right away. But more valuable than that, because I believe of the 50% of the people that are doing business with me right away, all I've done is create a compelling event. They were going to do business with me anyway. It was just a matter of time, emotion, or value. But the 50% that never call me back just saved me a ton of time, emotion, and value, because I will not bang my head against the wall. I spent many a decades in sales chasing people I can never sell, not realizing that it takes literally the amount of energy to change one closed mind than it does 1,000 open minds. So the 3 no rule allows me to separate open minds from closed minds and create a compelling event. My friend Thomas Ma, the managing director of Sapphire Apps Media, he's a Forbes 30 under 30. I know this is going to be a good question, my friend. Welcome.
Hey David, hey Jake, it's been so long. I think I saw you in New York before COVID got pretty crazy.
Right before, exactly, man. How are you?
I'm good. It's good to see you on this platform, David.
I love it. I got a face for radio, so the audio scene is perfect for Dave Meltzer.
Yeah, so my question is, I'd love to hear your experience with angel investing because it's something I'm starting this year, but I haven't invested in anybody yet. So I was wondering if you can share tips or stories on how to get started.
With what type of investment? I'm sorry.
Angel investment?
Oh yeah. So yeah, perfect. So I I have so much fun. The number one rule of angel investment is to know the percentage of investment that you're going to make. So for me, I predetermine every January a certain percentage of all of my income will go towards angel investing because it's the most risky of all investments because anything can happen because you're not as far down the line. Some of the other rules besides detaching my emotions and just using a quantitative effect of how much I'm going to invest, it's for me understanding the entrepreneur. Because in angel investing, the most critical of all components has nothing to do with the business, has nothing to do with the ideas. It's picking the jockey. And the number one common denominator that I have found in investing in entrepreneurs and angel investment is the desire or the need to be what they must be. you know, in order to succeed with an angel investment, you got to stay in business. And if we don't have the right jockey, I don't care how big, how strong, how fast the horse is, you're not going to win the race because that jockey is going to get tired and quit driving the horse. Because guaranteed, as you know, as an entrepreneur, if we want to make God laugh, come up with a well developed plan, especially one that's early on in the ideation state or innovation stage without having much context in the realm of angel investment. The good part about it is the return on investment can far exceed anything else. Let me give you an example. Early on, before 2008, I would take, for example, 10 investments of $2 million. And the funniest thing was nine of them would lose all my money. But the one might have a 20, 30, 40, or 100 return, and everybody would think I was a genius. Now, I made more money, but they would think I was genius. But statistically, think about it. I was 1 for 10. That's not even good for a baseball player. That's below the Mendoza line. So I think those rules of angel investment of knowing the money that you want to invest, the percentage that you want to invest, and make sure that 90% of the investment is based off of the entrepreneur, you will succeed.
Love it, David. Maybe at some point I can touch base if you can maybe collaborate on a project or something down the road.
You just reach out. I'd love to collaborate with you. David at dmeltzer.com. Everybody, just reach out. I'd love to help. And Thomas, it's so good to hear your voice. Thanks for joining me on
Yeah,
this
of course.
unbelievable platform. Cool. I'm going to take a quick question as we bring up Gigi. She is in my private coaching group from the other side of the world almost. She is amazing. They can't hear my questions. I have to repeat the question. So good. What's the key way to start a negotiation? The best way to start a negotiation is with questions, but knowing your starting point and your bottom line. So the key way to start a negotiation is to know your starting point and your bottom line and start with questions aligned with when you've done inventory and taken inventory of your values. All right, let's bring Gigi on. I'll repeat the questions for those people on IG Live and Zoom as well. So I apologize about that. Gigi, how are you?
Uh, Great. First of all, I want to say to everyone to follow you and join this on Clubhouse every Friday and invite your friends. Like David's amazing.
Well, she just said I'm amazing and join Clubhouse and watch me every Friday on IG Live, Zoom, or Clubhouse. I'm just bragging for myself. You can guess whether she said it or not. I think she really said it. Go ahead, Gigi.
Yeah, that's what I said. I think the most important thing in this is how you change your mindset because you've been through this from there's not enough to more than enough. Because that's when you go into a negotiation without the fear-based conscious. Because I've been through this, so I want you to give everyone the first step or practical steps to get there.
Perfect. She wants to know the steps that it takes to go from a scarce negotiation, a scarce world of not enough into a world of more than enough. So there's three different worlds. The first world is not enough, where you are a victim. Things happen to you, and you believe that why me? You're not a try me person. And if you remain a victim, if you focus in on what you don't want, what's missing in your life, or even worse, what other people want for you or what you don't want, don't be amazed when that's what you get. And so you need to elevate yourself out of the world of not enough. And the next world, though, which can be very confusing, is the world of just enough. In the world of just enough, things don't happen to you, but they happen for you. So there is a blend of optimism that things happen for you, but it's scarce. It's only happening for you. So you buy things you don't need. You negotiate to the last penny. You surround yourself with the wrong people and the wrong ideas. In fact, sometimes you do things to please people you don't even like. It's an ego-based consciousness of just enough. But if you can come into this abundant negotiation, a collaboration, not just with other people, but with the universe, to live with a faith that there's more than enough of everything to everyone, you'll be able to receive. You'll be able to utilize a worthiness, a connectivity that you've never seen before. You'll be able to effectuate more value and expand and grow and accelerate without attaching your emotions to some outcome. You won't create resistance, voids, and shortages. You literally will give your life away, but receive so much more. And in order to do so, utilize those 5 daily practices of taking inventory of your value, asking and attracting, paying attention to and intention to the coincidences you want. Do things now, stay present, and practicing ending fear. And I want everyone to raise their awareness of what world you're in today. And let's all aspire and inspire into creating a world of more than enough of everything for everyone. Realize that you are exactly where you're supposed to be at the right way at the perfect time. You're angling with everything that you have to get to where you want to go. But please remember, the key to the solution is that you will have faith that you will end up in a better place than you could even imagine, a better situation than you even can imagine. You're happy where you're at, angle to where you want, but have faith that you'll end up somewhere better than that. Thank you, Gigi, so much for being a part of my private group. Thank you so much for the question. I will see you next week, early in the week.
Thank you. See you.
See you, my friend. All right, let me take another question from Zoom as I bring on our next guest, Jason Cutter. He'll actually be on my podcast. I think he's has his own show, Authentic Persuasion Show, on January 25th. I'll be on his podcast, the Authentic Persuasion Show. If you haven't checked it out, it's a really good podcast. I can't wait to be on it in a couple weeks. I'm going to bring Jason up right now. Let me answer this question as we get there. What makes you the happiest? What makes me the happiest is the ability to enjoy the consistent everyday, persistent without quit pursuit of my own potential. Meaning, I only spend minutes and moments in ego-based consciousness. I'm a ferocious Buddha. Stop, drop, and roll when my mind, body, and soul is on fire. But what makes me the happiest is when I'm pursuing happiness. So my friend Chris Gardner wrote the book and the movie with Will Smith, right? Pursuit of Happiness. He got it wrong. Sorry, Chris. I know you wear 2 watches and you're an extremely bright guy, but it's not pursuing happiness. Happiness is the pursuit. So I'm utilizing my day as best as I can with a lens of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude to pursue. All right. Anyway, Jason, how are you, my friend? Oh, I can't wait. And, obviously persuasion is part of negotiation. I was hoping you could have a quick question for me.
Yeah. So one of the things that I see a lot is people in sales, which is what I focus on, they think that sales requires negotiation, especially price and terms. Where if you're doing a consultative sale, I would love your thoughts. Where if you do it in a certain way, then you understand the problem, the solution, the value you're providing. It eliminates actually a need for negotiation. What are your thoughts on that? Being told.
I love that. So Jason, who has that Authentic Persuasion podcast, is asking, is there a need for negotiation? If you're utilizing your sales and your vision sharing as an abundant philosophy of consultative sales, of learning what those values are and aligning the capability skills to that, do you need to negotiate? and I think that's an amazing question, Jason, because it's aligned exactly with my beliefs, is that if we can explore the values and we can align the values with the skills, the knowledge, the capabilities, and the desires, which is the emotional aspect. And if we do that through what I call the 5 to Thrive thing that we'll talk about on your podcast, and I'm more than happy to send out to everyone, just email me, david@dmeltzer.com. But number one, I think credibility is a big issue. People don't talk about credibility, but I always say, not even joking, that I am pursuing 100% credibility in what I do, because if I could ever reach 100% credibility, people would do exactly what I said because they would trust me complicitly. Meaning I could ask Jason today, say, hey, wire me $1 million, I'll wire you 2 million tomorrow. And if I'm 100% credible, you would do so. Now, I know that's unrealistic, but people discount credibility and they create this need to negotiate because they haven't worked on the credibility enough, where they've created void shortages and obstacles or skepticism in the process. Utilizing consultative sales and learning and being aligned is a key component to credibility. Obviously, it's also a key component to the emotional attachment. People buy on emotion for logical reasons. What better way to emotionally attach to somebody than have them talk about themselves and learn about them and the values that they have, instead of dumping features and benefits, overselling, back-end selling, manipulating, lying, all of those different things that are included in what's old school scarce negotiation, not abundant negotiation or consultative sales or collaboration. And then the quantitative value, when I talk about being able to quantify and articulate the quantifiable value to exceed what I'm asking for, it's impossible to do that without doing what you're teaching, Jason, without teaching the consultative sale, without teaching the open and closed-ended questions, in order to facilitate not only what is important to the other person, but what is valuable quantitatively to the other person. So we have to explore consultatively the reasons. We have to look at the impact, which is an emotional tie and a quantitative value. And of course, utilizing features and benefits to talk about the capabilities that are directly aligned with value as well. And I'm so excited to talk about this stuff on your podcast. People will be able to, we'll be on there on the 25th, the Authentic Persuasion Show. Man, you just no pun intended, you cut it up, my friend. Thanks for joining me, Jason.
Thanks for having me, Dave.
Awesome. First of all, thank you, everybody, as we come into the Power Hour, this unbelievable session on abundant negotiation with Q&A. Next week, don't forget BYOQ. The entire session will be these questions. Find me on Instagram Live, Clubhouse. Of course, 20,000 people or more now on registered here for our webinar. TV show tonight, episode 2 of 2 Minute Drill on Bloomberg. Check it out. Available there. You will love it. We're waiting for our launch on Amazon, waiting for the date they got behind with their Christmas launches. So just hang in there, everyone. We'll be able to reach it there. I think Pluto has Bloomberg as well online. If you want to find it, you can check it out there. We are so excited about that. If you want any of the exercises, guides, books, any of the documents that we talked about, RIC, pitching, selling, anything I talked about, my book signed, sent to you, paid for shipping, david@dmeltzer.com. Join my text community as well, 949-298-2905. You can catch all the replays on Spotify, Entrepreneur, every platform. Just search the playbook. Give me a like, share it with everyone. All right, that's enough commercials to end this up. Let's end it up and get on to the weekend on a positive note. Very simply, everyone, most importantly, be kind to your future self and do good deeds. Thank you, Clubhouse. Thank you, Zoom. Thank you, IG Live. Have a wonderful weekend.
This January comes the next hit business show, 2 Minute Drill. 4 companies will have 2 minutes to pitch their business, competing for $50,000 in cash and prizes. Will they rise to the occasion or crumble under the pressure?
You want to give yourself a critique or what?
Crunching your way to a healthier new you.
This is a great idea. Too bad you have it.
David Meltzer hosts 2 Minute Drill.